Hello, my name is Dan Kidd, and today I'm going to be talking about the hidden costs of organizational dishonesty. To start off, I just want to address there's an increased pressure and increased emphasis on ethics in the business world today. There's an increase in business courses being taught. There's an emphasis being put on ethics. The reason for this is not that there's necessarily a trend of businessmen being unethical, but really that individuals put into these opportunities in business, they self-serving, they could be incentivized, and sometimes they don't even realize that they're being unethical. So there's a definite need to cover this issue. Basically what's happening is businesses, is they're unethical, they get some short-term gains, but in the long run it ends up costing the business. And we're going to talk about how it costs the business, and basically it's going to go off of 3 different malignancies that we're going to talk about. The first malignancy is reputation degradation. Basically the idea on this is that a poor reputation for a company can really end up damaging the company, especially in today's world of social media. It doesn't take long for these rumors of unethical behavior to spread like wildfire. Most big businesses are on top of this. They've hired people to kind of manage their social media accounts and to scan social media for any mention of their names. But for those that don't, if unethical behavior tends to go viral, it can be really damaging as customers and others learn of their behavior and have their perceptions skewed or changed on the ethics of this company. For example, there was a study done, 80% of those surveyed in the study said that the ethics of a company would influence their decision on whether to purchase from that company. Going further, 74% of those surveyed in that same study said that the ethics of a company would affect their decision to purchase stock in that company. Once perceived as being dishonest, it's nearly impossible for a company to recover from that and to rebrand themselves. Very costly, very time consuming, and hard to regain people's trust. The next malignancy is mismatches between the values of an employee and an organization. It's important for companies and employees to share values, especially when it comes to ethical behavior. So when we're talking about this, we're going to talk about a company that has unethical behaviors or unethical values. So if we take an employee that has ethical values, ethical desires, and they're working in this environment of unethical values, they're going to have stress. They're not going to feel at home. They're not going to feel safe. It's going to really stress them out. And it has some probably unintended consequences for this employee. In this situation, we see an increase of absenteeism, low job satisfaction, and high turnover rates for those employees. Or they end up being converted and taking on those values of the company just to fit in. So employees that share unethical values, or employees that have been converted to those unethical values, when that happens and now you have the employees being unethical themselves, companies will see an increase in pilferage, kickbacks, and inventory shrinkage. Both of these situations end up with an increased cost for the business or for the company. The last malignancy that we're going to cover is an increased surveillance. So surveillance programs come into play as a measure the company puts in to try to stop unethical behavior, to surveil or to watch and prohibit any unethical behavior of the employees. These have a direct cost with them, and it's pretty staggering, this direct cost. In 1990 to 1992, U.S. corporations spent over $500 million on implementing these surveillance programs. And that was in 92, so I'm sure today that cost has skyrocketed. There are health consequences of these surveillance programs. Just an employee knowing that they're being watched, they're being surveilled, actually literally affects their health. This results in diminished productivity, increased absenteeism, low job satisfaction, and a high turnover rate. There is an evident lack of trust in the employees, and they can feel that. This causes kind of an us versus them environment, an adversarial environment, if you will, lack of cooperation, and again, a high turnover rate. There's often backlash due to perceived restrictions. The employees will find a way to get around the surveillance and once they find it out, they'll do everything they can to avoid that surveillance and take advantage of any of those that they can. There's a perception by management that surveillance causes honest behavior. Really what this is going to end up doing is management is going to drive for more surveillance programs, which we talked about have a very high cost. So you can see that all these effects of surveillance end up costing the company quite a lot of money. So in summary, I just want to cover that unethical behaviors can cause real damage to a company's profits. We talked about the three malignancies: the reputation degradation, the mismatches between the value of an employee, or the mismatches of values of the employee and the business, and an increase in surveillance. I hope from after this discussion that you can see that it really does pay to be ethical. And for this reason, you can see why there's an increased emphasis on ethics in business today. Thank you.